So why did Anakin Skywalker really fall to the dark side? In this video, we're gonna dig into that question. I'll also break down how Qui-Gon Jinn's philosophy could have saved Anakin. And finally, how Stoicism is the philosophy that shows the difference between Qui-Gon and Anakin.
You underestimate my power!
Your favorite stories are telling you something. The question is, are you listening? Hey, I'm Riley, and this is Geeky Stoics, and we take Star Wars way too seriously. And one of my favorite questions to ask Star Wars fan is, what is your favorite Star Wars quote? I want you to think of that right now, because I too have a favorite Star Wars quote, and it's not the most typical one you hear, of course. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
It's not that. It's not do or do not, there is no try, although we do have an entire video about that. My favorite quote in all of Star Wars is from Qui-Gon Jinn. Your focus determines your reality.
Your focus determines your reality.
You know, this is an entire philosophy packaged into one quote from the greatest Star Wars film of all time.
I've been waiting 15 years since Return of the Jedi came out.
Don't ask questions. I'm a prequel kid. But this philosophy isn't new. Actually, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, everything has two handles, one by which it may be born, another by which it cannot. Epictetus was, by the way, he grew up a slave, but became one of the most famous philosophers of all time. For this reason, because essentially what he's describing is that every situation we face in life, we can choose how we respond to it. That is the handle that we can grasp. It's our perspective. Our focus determines our reality. Did you just go through a rough breakup with your girlfriend? There's two ways you could look at it. You can focus on the tragedy, the heartbreak, the bitterness, like that is one handle. But those are the things that you can't control. You pick up that handle, the situation cannot be born. But if you choose to focus on the things you learn from the relationship, maybe about yourself, maybe about boundaries that you need to have, like that is the perfect illustration of the handle by which the situation can be born. The things that you can control, the things that you can take forward and improve your life. And that's what Epictetus and that's what Qui-Gon Jinn is essentially saying. Another way of putting this, your focus determines your reality. Or, if you remember from The Empire Strikes Back,
Control, control, you must gain control.
Or probably the greatest quote on this topic from Star Wars, which is, Luke, you're going to find that a great many of the truths that we cling to depend greatly on your own point of view.
And I'm not the only Jedi who's screwing with you.
Yes, Yoda, not you.
You know, no surprise here. I am a kid of the prequel generation, or more accurately, I should say these days, the prequel meme generation, because thanks to Reddit, these movies are back in the pop cultural consciousness. But strangely enough, I actually never watched any of the original Star Wars films or the prequels growing up. I actually grew up overseas. I was the perfect age. I would have been 9 years old when The Phantom Menace came out, but I was blissfully and innocently aware of Star Wars my entire childhood. But every few years we would come back to the States, and I will never forget the summer of 1999 when I was introduced to Star Wars through this.
Star Wars Episode 1 cans, collect all 24 this summer.
That's right, the original collection of Star Wars Pepsi cans. We went over to a friend's house, and he had collected every single one of these cans and proudly displayed them in his bedroom. These cans, these shiny Pepsi cans, were my introduction to a galaxy far, far away. And my life would never be the same. Which takes us to the central theme of this video, which is all about control. Now, this is the point where I'm going to tell you that this is actually a 3-part series that we're doing here at Geeky Stoics. The first one is all about the theme of control in Star Wars. Part 2 is about faith over fear, focusing on The Empire Strikes Back. That's coming up, so if you're interested, you should definitely subscribe, because Part 3 is going to be about identity. And who do you think you are? With a look at Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. So if you're interested, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell for the upcoming videos. So while we started the video talking about the theme of focus, your focus determines your reality, the reason I brought in that Epictetus quote, the one about the two handles, is that really when we talk about focus, the important thing, the important theme of focus, the whole idea of focus is most powerful when you're thinking about it in the context of control and the things that you can and the things that you can't control. And there's no better illustration of this in Star Star Wars than the tragedy of Darth Plagueis. No, I mean, than the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker's fall to the dark side in Revenge of the Sith. Anakin's fall really starts with his fear. His fear is what leads to his unhealthy attachment to Padme, and Yoda literally tells him this in Revenge of the Sith.
Attachment leads to jealousy. The shadow of greed, that is.
He's like, what must I do, Master? Yoda tells him, you must train yourself to let go
of everything you fear to lose.
You know why? Because Anakin can't control Padme's fate as much as he'd like to. And really, Anakin's flaw, his ultimate flaw, I think, in the prequels, comes down to lust. And I'm talking about that in like the traditional Catholic 7 deadly sins version of lust. And I think that lust that Anakin Skywalker experiences comes in 2 forms. It comes in the form of attachment, like Yoda just told him, and it comes in the form of power, a lust for power, because Anakin's desire for power is born from his desire for control. That's this strange dichotomy that Anakin experiences. This intense love that transforms into like an unhealthy attachment, a desire for control, which brings his desire for power. If you're a longtime Star Wars fan, like, this isn't rocket science. This isn't mind-blowing analysis. I get that. But here's the important thing, I think, here that you probably haven't seen in any Star Wars video essays on YouTube or any of that crap. This is some exclusive behind-the-scenes analysis that I, alone, will now give to you. You're welcome. So the central question here is like love versus power, and where does that central lust come from? Does it come from Anakin's pure love for those closest to him that then becomes distorted?
You will not take it from me!
Or, I think there's a fair argument that it's just a straight-up play for power, that is the core corruption of Anakin Skywalker.
Your new empire?
But I think, and this is the analysis that you're looking for here at Geeky Stoics, the true reason for Anakin's fall to the dark side was Natalie Portman. Come on. Come on. I'm a senator. You're a Jedi. It could never work.
I couldn't do that. Could you, Anakin? Could you live like that?
But seriously, like on a more serious note, let's bring it back home. Really, the foundation of Anakin's fall is laid out in Attack of the Clones. It's the death of his mother, of Shmi Skywalker. Anakin is convinced that her death is his fault. He is to blame because he didn't have enough, wait for it, power to exercise control over her fate.
Why couldn't I save her? I know I could have.
You're not all powerful.
Well, I should be. Someday I will be. I will be the most powerful Jedi ever.
This is where the seeds of destruction are planted for Anakin Skywalker. For Anakin, that first seed is the seed of fear. That fear of loss, of those that he cares about. It comes from a pure place, but that is how Palpatine is able to manipulate Anakin Skywalker. Remember that scene in Revenge of the Sith, right at the opening? Anakin literally just beheaded Count Dooku and is experiencing immense remorse. And what does old Palp say? It's only natural.
It is only natural. He cut off your arm, and you wanted revenge. It wasn't the first time, Anakin. Remember what you told me about your mother and the Sand People?
He knows that this is his entry point. He knows this is where he can weasel his way in and exploit Anakin's fear of loss, which is of course exactly what he does when that same fear resurfaces as he begins to fear the loss of Padme in Revenge of the Sith. Palpatine is able to exploit this fear of loss. All Palpatine needs is a catalyst for Anakin, and of course, that catalyst, that moment, comes from him fearing to lose the other love of his life, Padme. Padme becomes that catalyst that Palpatine can use to exploit and draw Anakin Skywalker to the dark side of the Force.
I won't lose you the way I lost my mother.
And this is the trial of Anakin Skywalker. This is Anakin Skywalker's cave on Dagobah, only in his case, it's on Mustafar. There is this threshold where Palpatine's manipulation, Palpatine's exploitation of his fear, is what eventually influences Anakin's desire for power. And that desire for power eventually eclipses his love, which is why in a fit of uncontrolled rage, he is willing to kill the very woman he claimed he wanted to protect, the very woman he loved. And that is what destroyed Anakin Skywalker. And on that cheerful note, but seriously, there is a lesson to learn here, and that is when we face difficult decisions in our lives, when we face stress, when we're choosing which handle to pick up, choose only that which you can control. Because otherwise, if you're worried about the economy, the presidential election, what people are ranting about on Twitter, the fact that the new Star Wars first-person shooter was canceled. Yeah, I know, that part kind of sucked. But these are the things that we can't control. We cannot control what happens to us in life. All we can do is choose how to respond to it. May the Force be with you. So thanks for watching. We've got a special bonus for you. Right in the description, you'll actually see a link to our Geeky Stoic Substack with the guide to all things Star Wars and philosophy. And also check out this video about the most famous philosophical quote in all of Star Wars: do or do not. It doesn't mean what you think it means. Until next time, may the Force be with you.